Black respectability will not save us. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Black respectability will not save us. We ought not be doing what we've always done when the situation is not the same. Family, I'm about to say something that I never, ever thought I was going to say. I saw Trump in real life. So I want to provide my reflections on the National Association of Black Journalists inviting Donald Trump to its annual convention taking place in my hometown of Chicago. Let's get into it. So I woke up on Tuesday morning with an email from NABJ. And it says that Donald Trump is coming to the convention. And I thought it was a joke. I did. I must have read it 3 times at least because I just could not believe Trump was coming to this convention. Like, why was he here? Why was this happening? Why was this happening? I didn't believe it. But as the day went on, I talked to some colleagues. I was like, oh, this really is real. That was not a mistake. That is really happening. And so this question was asked of NABJ leadership. Why was Donald Trump invited here to this space? And they responded with, it's a longstanding tradition since 1976 for us to invite presidential candidates to the convention. That was basically the response. So a lot of people had something to say about that, but let me tell you what I think. This is a Black convention for Black journalists. Trump does not respect the press. His policies do not respect Black people's humanity. And why in the world would this organization in particular platform someone like Trump? And I'm a person who loves history, and I always think about things in context to history. And so I automatically go back to the 1960s, and I think to myself, would we platform segregationists? Would we do that? Would a Black organization like an NABJ give a platform to a Strom Thurmond because he was running for office? Would we have done that? I'm going to hope and pray the answer is no. Okay, I'm going to hope the answer is no. But then they gave 45 a platform, so who knows what their answer would have been for the mere fact that he was running for presidential office. NABJ is not a political organization. It is not a newsroom. It is a collection of Black journalists coming together for community, to celebrate, to uplift each other, to support each other. That is what NABJ is. It is not a political org. This is not a place where we have to do what we've always done because we're supposed to be objective journalists. No, we're Black journalists looking to connect with other Black journalists in a Black space. There are Black conservatives absolutely everywhere. There are Black moderates absolutely everywhere. There are Black liberals absolutely everywhere. We do not all vote the same. These are all facts. And this organization does not have to platform this human being. They just didn't. Black respectability will not save us. Let me say it again for the people in the back. Black respectability will not save us. We ought not be doing what we've always done when the situation is not the same. We are living in an unprecedented time where history is, in fact, looking to repeat itself. So why would this historically Black organization choose to lean on this is what we've always done when things are not how they've always been? But let me tell you about my experience. And let me tell you, I wasn't going. I called my dad and he said, you gotta go. My dad said, I gotta go. And I got to report back to the people. And so I listened to my dad. I went, and now let me just report back what I experienced at NABJ when Donald Trump showed up. So we got an email that morning that began to outline all the details. We get in line at 10 a.m. It's supposed to start at noon. Make sure to have your badge. Get in line. This line was long. I mean, long. And I was like, there is still more line. And what ended up happening was that the entire schedule got upended because of this invitation. There was a morning and an early afternoon full of programming. So whether they intended to or not, they ended up platforming this man and disregarding their own constituents, their own attendees, and their own program, which really makes no sense to me. But I digress. Let me get back to my experience. Yeah, and so after waiting in that long line and then going through metal detectors, walking into the ballroom, it got packed. There was not a seat left in the ballroom. The media was there, okay? The live stream was on, and this was really going to happen. It started over an hour late. And of course, there's conflicting reports as to why. Journalists were reporting that there was a disagreement between NABJ and the Trump team. NABJ wanted to do live fact checking and they didn't want that. And so they were in a standoff. That is the report coming from journalists. The report from Trump while he was on stage was that they were having equipment problems. And so that's why there was a delay. So when he came in, there was very little applause. But there were contingents of Trump supporters. They had their red hats on and Trump across the front. They was in there. I even heard a "We love you." Yeah, that happened. So there were 3 reporters tasked with asking Trump questions. Rachel Scott of ABC News, Harris Faulkner of Fox News, and Kadia Goba of Semaphore. So Rachel Scott opened up the Q&A session asking Trump some hard-hitting questions about his past record. Very valid questions. Why would you question Obama's legitimacy as an American? Why have you told Democrats to go back to their countries? Why are you meeting with white supremacists at Mar-a-Lago? Why? Well, he came back being 45. I don't think I've ever been asked such a horrible question. Such a nasty question. You must be with that ABC News, that fake news channel. He is at a journalism conference. They have platformed a man who hates the media. And that pretty much set the tone for how the rest of this thing was gonna go. Because next he went on telling us he's been the best president for black people since Abraham Lincoln. Then he was asked if he thought VP Kamala Harris was a DEI hire. If he thought that she was on the ticket only because she was a black woman. And this is what he said.
How do you define DEI? Go ahead. How do you define
diversity, equity, inclusion?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Is that what your definition?
That is
give me a
literally
definition
the words.
then. Would you give me a definition?
DEI.
Give me a definition.
Sir, I'm asking you a question.
No, you have to
direct
define
question.
it. Define it for me if you
I
want.
just defined it, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is only on the ticket because she is a black woman?
Well, I can say no. I think it's maybe a little bit different. So I've known her a long time indirectly, not directly very much, and she was always of Indian heritage, and she was only promoting Indian heritage. I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. So I don't know, is she Indian or is she black?
She's always
But you know
identified
what?
as black.
I respect either
black
one.
college.
I respect either one, but she obviously doesn't. Because she was Indian all the way, and then all of a sudden she made a turn, and she became a black person.
Just to be clear, sir, do you
I think
believe
somebody should look into continue in a very hostile, nasty tone.
It's a direct question, sir. Do you believe that Vice President Kamala Harris is a DEI hire, as some
I really
Republicans
don't
have
know.
said?
I mean, I really don't know. Could be. There are some, and there are plenty. I know this lady right over there, Harris, is a fantastic person who just interviewed me at length. And we had a great interview, I think, and I heard you get very good ratings on that.
Well, you told me it was the longest one of your life, so we had a good discussion.
Just happened to be black. And then he was asked about immigration. Y'all ain't ready for this one.
Look, I want to talk about why you're here today. I mean, it is not lost on us how divided we are as a country. And as you were coming today, we really got to see that we were divided along the lines of race, along the lines of gender. And there is this question of, in this moment where we are, why come here? What is your message today?
My message is to stop people from invading our country that are taking, frankly, a lot of problems with it. But one of the big problems, and a lot of the journalists in this room I know and I have great respect for, a lot of the journalists in this room are black. Oh. I will tell you that coming from the border are millions and millions of people that happen to be taking black jobs. You have that?
What exactly is a black job, sir?
A black job is anybody that has a job. That's what it is. Anybody that has. And they're taking the employment away from black people. They're coming in, they're invading. It's an invasion of millions of people, probably 15, 16, 17 million people. I have a feeling it's much more than that. And everybody's been seeing what's happened. The first group of people, the black population, is affected most by that. And Kamala is allowing it to happen. She's the border czar. She's the worst border czar in the history of the world. There's never been a border czar like this. She's never even essentially been. She said she was there once, but not the right part of the border. So.
Then he was asked about his stance that cops should have immunity, especially given what recently happened to Sonia Massey.
You said police would get immunity for prosecution if you win. Why should someone like that officer have immunity, in your opinion?
Immunity?
Immunity.
I don't know the exact case, but I saw something, and it didn't look good to me. It didn't look good to me. Are you talking with the water, right?
Yeah, well, police unions are not backing this person either. But again,
they're going to be charging the officer. I guess they're charging the officer.
So why should he receive immunity?
Well, he might not. I mean, it depends. It depends on what happens. I'm talking about people that are much different cases than that. We need people to protect ourselves. And by the way, in Chicago, as an example, a few weeks ago, July 4th weekend, they had 117 shootings and 17 deaths. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. We need to have our police officers have the respect and dignity back. In this particular case, I saw something that didn't look good to me. I didn't like it. I didn't like it at all.
So, can you get a little more specific back to the immunity question? Who would make those changes?
Well, right now, for the most part, people are protected by their unions, by their police unions, or by their police departments. But I'm saying if I felt, or if a group of people would feel that somebody was being unfairly prosecuted because the person did a good job maybe with crime, or made a mistake, an innocent mistake. There's a big difference between being a bad person and making an innocent mistake. But if somebody made an innocent mistake, I would want to help that person.
What would those exceptions be? What would determine
You
an
go
innocent
after
mistake?
somebody and it's a very close call and it's very dangerous. And they have, the policeman's life and woman is a very difficult thing because sometimes you have less than a second to make a life and death decision. And sometimes very bad decisions are made. They're not made from an evil standpoint, but they're made from the standpoint of they made a mistake.
And y'all, I ain't done yet because he was also asked about the insurrectionists on January 6th, child. He answered that too.
Pardoning all the rioters, you said, yes, absolutely.
Sure.
You called them patriots. 140 police officers were assaulted that day. Their injuries included broken bones, at least one officer lost an eye, one had 2 cracked ribs, 2 smashed spinal discs, another had a stroke, were the people who assaulted those 140 officers, including those I just mentioned, patriots who deserve pardons?
Well, let me bring it back to modern day. Like about 5 days ago, we had an attack on the Capitol, a horrible attack on the Capitol. You saw the people that were protesting and spraying these incredible monuments, bells, lions, all these magnificent limestone and granite with red paint, red spray paint that will never actually come off, especially in the limestone. It will never, I'm a builder, I know about this stuff. It'll never, you see it in 100 years from now. They viciously attacked our government. They fought with police. They fought with them much more openly than I saw on January 6th. What's going to happen to those people? What's going to happen to the people in Portland that destroyed
But sir, my
that
question
city?
is on those.
What's going to happen to
my
the
question
people
is
that
on
tried
those
to
rioters who assaulted
Excuse me.
officers.
You have to
Would you pardon
What's
those
going to
people?
happen? Oh, absolutely, I would.
You would pardon those?
If they're innocent, I would pardon them.
They've been convicted.
And by the way, the Supreme Court just yeah, they were convicted by a very tough system.
They even asked him about abortion. Hear what he had to say.
They want Roe v. Wade in the federal government. They wanted it. Everybody
But the
wanted
majority
it
of
back.
Americans oppose
Excuse
Roe
me.
v. Wade being
They
overturned.
don't know
Most polls have
about
showed that,
this.
sir.
Right now, they're voting. It brought it back to the states. Now, I happen to believe in the 3 exceptions. Ronald Reagan believed with rape, incest, life of the mother. I do. I think most people do. I think most Republicans do also. And it's not at all radical. And again, you have to follow your heart.
Now, they tried to ask a question about Project 2025, but ran out of time. So we don't know what he would have said about that. Now, here's the thing that really gets me upset is that you brought Black journalists together to be in community. These journalists work for some of the largest media conglomerates and organizations in the country and in the world, for the most part. And bringing this man to our conference forced them to have to report on him because their jobs paid for them to be there. And so they are expecting them to report on the news. When in fact, they're supposed to be there to celebrate, to network, to be surrounded by Black joy. And instead, they're having to sit and listen to Donald Trump disrespect Black women on that stage, disrespect their craft, and continue to lie. That is what deeply upsets me, because those Black journalists didn't come there for that. They just didn't. They didn't come there to have to report on Donald Trump. But for so many in that room, they didn't have another choice. NABJ got this wrong in a bad way. And they have lost credibility with so many of their constituents. And this just did not have to happen like this.